America's workforce and economy cannot flourish with the unchecked, unfettered, illegal immigration that is Biden's border invasion. Through this hearing today, I intend to give the American workforce a voice by holding Democrats accountable for their disastrous open border policies. There's never been a country more welcoming to immigrants than America. Our legal immigration process has allowed millions of immigrants to achieve the American dream for their families, approximately 1 million per year on average. Our country has a unique American identity, a fact that is upheld and reinforced with a robust, merit-based citizenship process and a respect for the rule of law. Under President Biden, American jobs are threatened. Illegal aliens are competing against Americans for American jobs. Illegal workers provide many advantages for some employers since they cost $0 additional in taxes and often accept lower wages for more work. American taxpayer dollars are also at stake. Americans pay for each border crossing, whether it's through government-purchased iPhones, stays in 4-star New York City hotels, or $450,000 monetary settlements, all of which are happening as part of the Democrat plan to incentivize more mass illegal immigration. These expenditures are in addition to the commonly accepted costs that illegal aliens impose on American society by participation in our education and healthcare systems. And overall, illegal immigration is estimated to cost taxpayers $150.7 billion per year. Real wages for the working class have collapsed thanks to the policies of the Biden administration. Under President Trump, blue-collar real wages rose 5.6%. Under Biden, blue-collar real wages have fallen 2.1%. Biden inflation is largely responsible for the economic hardship middle-class Americans are dealing with. Additionally, the decline of blue-collar wages is significantly affected by 7 million illegal aliens pouring across the border during this administration. Liberal Democrats used to recognize the depressing effect of illegal immigration on American wages. Bill Clinton constructed portions of the border wall in an attempt to curb illegal immigration during his time in office. The Obama-Biden administration built over 100 miles of border wall during its tenure. Where are those liberal ideas now? Why has the other side completely abandoned all hope of making our border secure? Why the Democrat Party has decided to turn its back on American working class and taxpayers is the political question of our time. I don't expect to answer it with today's hearing, but I do hope to explain some of the dire economic consequences of Democrat policies for our rapidly transforming country. Mr. Law, in your testimony, you mentioned the Biden administration's decision to issue EADs, or employment authorization documents, to millions of illegal aliens. In order to mask the true invasion numbers, Secretary Mayorkas is misusing his parole authority, which is supposed to be offered to illegal aliens on a case-by-case basis, but instead the Biden DHS is releasing entire groups of illegal Americans into the country on parole, which removes wait times from asylum laws and instead immediately makes these illegal aliens eligible to work legally. Is that an accurate reflection of your testimony, your understanding of the situation?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Largely so. I would add the qualifier with parole that it's not just a case-by-case basis, but it must be for either an urgent humanitarian reason or a significant public benefit. The lack of detention space or the fact that somebody wants to come here but doesn't qualify for a visa meets neither one of those criteria as well.
Yeah, I would point out that it's not really a question of not having laws. It's our laws not being followed, as you know. So EADs can be issued to all aliens who request asylum in the U.S. pending the review of their asylum claims. And it's my understanding the federal government continues issuing EADs to aliens after they've been issued final orders of removal. So in other words, even after a federal immigration judge has found that an illegal alien is in the United States, again illegally, and orders him to leave, that alien can still get an EAD and keep working. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is one of the work permit categories that, and then of course the notion of giving someone with an order of supervision, which means they've already received a final order of removal. They've exhausted all avenues of attempt to stay in this country, and this is it. But if you give them a work permit, they're not going to cooperate with getting their visa. They're not going to cooperate with their home country. And I believe we're approaching pretty close to 2 million illegal aliens with final orders of removal that remain in the country.
There's nearly 2 million. So there's nearly 2 million illegal aliens in the country who've been literally ordered to be removed by a federal immigration judge, but they're still authorized to work by Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security. Correct?
I believe that's the approximate number. It might be, it's hard to tell. This administration that promised to be the most transparent has gone out of their way to hide the work permit data that the Department of Homeland Security keeps track of. But there's over 1 million that they inherited through the difficulties that the sanctuary city states like California impeded President Trump's ability to deport illegal aliens. And it's only grown from there because this administration's not removing anybody.
And you would agree that if an illegal is here, but they've got that piece of paper from the government that lets them work legally, they're unlikely to ever leave.
That's absolutely correct.
Jumping to Dr. Camarada, I wanted to ask you a question with respect to, you conducted a report that showed that median weekly earnings for U.S.-born workers without a bachelor's degree increases more during periods of lower immigration than in periods of higher immigration. Can you discuss a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the period 2017, 18, and 19 is interesting because it's a strong economy, and yet the level of immigration actually fell. We don't find that at any other time in the data. Usually immigration goes up when the economy is strong. So some of it seems to have been a reduction in illegal immigration, and some of it seems to be a reduction in legal immigration. It's hard to parse out exactly. Looks like it's both. But that decline in in overall immigration was a period of higher wage growth for Americans without a college degree. And it grew much faster than in the 4 and 5 years before that when the immigration level was higher, even though the economy was also expanding at that time. Interestingly enough, another paper in Economic Review recently comes to pretty much the same conclusion. They look at areas that had traditionally been getting a lot of immigrants in the earlier period. Then when there was the slowdown, 2017 to 19, in those high immigration areas where they got less people, wages seem to have done much better. And I also found that labor force participation improved during that period when immigration was lower. So it's kind of a real world test. And the test seems to show that less immigration is good, at least for the less educated in the United States.
Well, I would just add a comment from some of what's been said in the hearing. My friends on the other side often want to conflate immigration with the illegal border invasion, and they want to suggest if you criticize the invasion, then you are somehow against immigration when we're the most generous country in the world, historically and currently, where we allow some 1 million legal immigrants into our country. As Mr. Costa has pointed out, we are a nation of immigrants. We've got many millions of immigrants in our country, and just because you believe that we should control whom we allow into our country and ought to happen lawfully does not mean you're against immigration or merit-based immigration. Thank you, everybody, for participating in what is a very important issue addressing some of the impacts of what is one of the most important crises facing America, Biden's open border crisis. We may all sympathize with individuals who are desiring to come to America in search of economic opportunity, in search of a better life. However, we are a nation of laws, and without laws being followed, we have the anarchy that is on display at our southern border. Secretary Mayorkas says the border is under control, and it is under control, but unfortunately and sadly and dangerously, it's under control by the Mexican crime cartels. Echoing the sentiments of some of the members who spoke today, it's baffling to understand, quite frankly, the perspective of the other side. In addition to the strain and the stress placed on border residents, I've been to the border 5 times in the last 2.5 years to see it for myself. The strain and the stress on border states who are bearing the brunt of the situation, local law enforcement, along with law enforcement even in my community in Virginia, hundreds of miles from the border. The strain and the stress on our social services, our healthcare systems, our education systems, not to mention the explosion of drugs pouring across our border and the resulting overdose deaths in our country, some 100,000 a year. Then there's the $150 billion cost for a nation that is bankrupting itself with its spending and borrowing some $2 trillion a year currently. But I would further just ask, with the open border situation, what about the 1.5 million gotaways over the last 2.5 years who aren't surrendering to Border Patrol, aren't using the CBP One app. They aren't taking advantage of all that's offered to illegals by this administration, but they wear the carpet shoes and the camo head to toe. They're trafficking things across our border. They've got the criminal ties, terrorist ties, and so forth. What is the national security impact of that? How could any member of Congress defend that? Would someone take the bet that 90% of those are here for just a better life? And then there's only 10% that wish us harm, 150,000? Or maybe you really think that 99% are here just for a better life of the gotaways, the ones who evade apprehension at the border. That would be 15,000. And one of our colleagues, I believe as Mrs. Hayes pointed out, the perpetrators of 9/11 referenced them, 19 which did that. If 99% of the criminal gotaways are wonderful individuals seeking a better life, that would be 15,000. What kind of harm could they do? I would submit irreparable harm has been done to this country that will only be revealed in the future with what has happened so far. I want to read the words of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who last week at a town hall he spoke about the unprecedented number of illegal aliens that are pouring into his city, which pales into comparison, again, what's happening in the border states. Of course, you could say that every state's a border state. My sheriffs, my local law enforcement in my district in Virginia would say that they feel like a border state. But Eric Adams, mayor of New York, said, I'm going to tell you something, New Yorkers, never in my life have I had a problem that I didn't see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. 110,000 migrants we have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. It's going to come through your neighborhoods. All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000, and I'm telling you now with 110,000, the city we knew we're about to lose. End quote. That's the mayor of New York City, located some over 1,000 miles away from the border. And I'm concerned that New York City is a case study for the country.